Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the Rockstar Kick-Ass Nation. It is I, Christopher Rausch, your No Excuses coach and the host of the Raw Unscripted Podcast that has been going now for nearly 7 years. Thank you so much. I just want to start off this podcast by saying thank you to each and every one of you who tune in every week on the videocast as part of the loyal videocast community that comes on here and watches it and engages with me and asks me questions and is a part of the Facebook group called Raw and Unscripted. Thank you to the people who share the episodes out. Thank you to the people who talk about other people and say, hey, you need to check out this podcast. This week, I decided to take a look at the analytics of the show, and I just want to share something with you. I share every once in a while that we're in a bunch of countries, and I really don't pay attention to the analytics that much because it's not the biggest thing that I focus on. I focus on, am I providing impact? Am I getting feedback from people listening to the show saying, Chris, what you shared last week really hit me, and I've actually been taking some action on that. Those recommendations, those questions that you told me to ask myself, those are changing what it is that I'm doing and what it is that I'm focusing on. When you guys send stuff to me like that or engage on the social media posts and tell me that's all the payment I need. But every once in a while, it's good to look at the statistics and see where we're going. I just want to share something with you. I, again, don't look at this very often. And normally I say we're in like 30 plus countries, but here we are in, I think, 40 plus countries. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say thank you. And here's the crazy thing. When I look at these statistics over the last 90 days, the number one country, I found this crazy, the number one country listening to the podcast is Brazil. That is nuts. A couple of months ago, it was China and Hong Kong. So this guy, this raw and unscripted, no excuses coach who loves to help people and just talks how I talk, is reaching people in all these different countries who speak different language. I don't know if they're translating. I don't know if they speak it in English, but it's super exciting. In Brazil was number one in the last 90 days. United States, India, United Kingdom, right? Hong Kong, Argentina, Indonesia, Turkey. Got people listening in Turkey, Mexico, Ecuador, Malaysia, Philippines, Russia, France, Vietnam, Australia. Australia used to be really high. Colombia, Ireland, Canada, Bangladesh, Peru, Singapore, Morocco, South Africa. We got people living in Morocco listening to the Raw and Unscripted show. I'm not making this shit up. I'm reading this directly from my dashboard of my podcast distributor. Germany, Pakistan, Ukraine, Uruguay, Dominican Republic, the Netherlands, Chile, Spain, Thailand, Belgium, Turkey, that's weird, Poland, Taiwan, Iraq, people listening in Iraq, not a lot, but people, thank you very much for listening in Iraq, Jamaica, New Zealand, Paraguay, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Sweden, Egypt, Italy, Nepal, Venezuela, Albania, Bahrain, Barbados, Czechia, Georgia, the country of Georgia, Kenya, Lebanon, Portugal, Romania, United Arab Emirates. That's interesting, unknown. Bahamas, Belarus. I've never even heard of this place. Burkina Faso, El Salvador, Greece, Honduras, Hungary, Ivory Coast, Lithuania, Norway, Senegal, Slovakia, Tanzania, Armenia, Belize, Bulgaria, Cambodia, Denmark, Ethiopia, Finland. And it just keeps going on. I've never seen this many countries. Granted, now we're getting to the areas where it's a lot smaller downloads. But still, Nigeria, I'm just so blown away, and I'm so thankful to you guys. Again, I started this podcast back in November 2019. I was approached by a podcast network, and they said, hey, we want you to be a host on here. And I had actually been a guest on the first show of somebody that was on the show. So their producer saw me, long story short, said, hey, you want to do this thing called a podcast? And I had already done a live radio show for 5 years. And so tonight, just so you guys can get the subject matter, we're talking about comfort zones. We're talking about comfort zones and procrastination, because I did that show, the Kick-Ass Radio Show, which is still on iTunes and still on podcast platforms. I did that for 5 years, but I got comfortable and I got complacent, and I was doing it for the wrong reasons, and I had to convince myself to do it. And so because I was in that comfort zone, because I was starting to experience boredom, I decided, let's just stop it. I've been doing it for 5 years. Let's take a break. And if it's so inspiring for me to do, then in a couple of months, surely maybe 5-6 months, I'll bring it back. Hey, the new revised, here we're going. And I found I didn't like it anymore. And I found that I was okay. So I took 2 years off of doing any type of broadcasting before I started doing the Raw Unscripted show. And so I share that with you because I'm sharing a couple of other stories about where I personally was in my comfort zone and decided that I needed to change dramatically what I was doing, living, being who I was. So I'm going to share some stories with you because when we get out of our comfort zone, Lord knows it is not easy. And I'm not here to blow smoke up your ass. You guys know that. What I'm here is to provide you strategies. I'm here to provide you ways to reconsider your past, present, and your future, ways to ask yourself questions that will move you into a state of understanding that discipline and doing things that are awkward and uncomfortable that you're not going to be great at is a part of life. And I really want to emphasize this for you as we go into this conversation. Think about your life. When have you learned and grown the most? When things were easy, comfortable, just flowed to you, everything was cool? Or when you were challenged, when you had to get outside your comfort zone, when you had to get resourceful to figure out the solution to a problem, when you had to go do things you had never done before in order to get things you hadn't got? Because we got out of that comfort zone, because we stopped procrastinating. So tonight I want to devote this episode to this. And I want to talk about a definition. It's very critical that when we're communicating about subjects and ideas and also communicating to ourselves and communicating one-on-one, I really want you to start noticing this about the words that you use, right? So many times people tell me I'm overwhelmed, I'm busy, I'm suffocating, I have no time. Like, you tell yourself, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the bandwidth. You tell yourself what it is that you don't have, and you will certainly invite more of that into your life. So the definition of a comfort zone, what I found here, a comfort zone is a psychological state where activities and behaviors fit a routine and a pattern that minimizes stress and risk. Again, I want to read this to you again. A comfort zone is a psychological state where activities and behaviors fit a routine and a pattern that minimizes stress and risk. It feels safe, but it also is a trap. So think about that. Where in your life may you be trapped? Either cognitively or subconsciously. Where is an area that you might be in your comfort zone? Where is an area of your life that you're not happy with? Not fulfilled? You don't feel like you're doing your absolute best, or you feel like maybe that part of your life is no longer valid and you want to do different things, but you're afraid. You've always done this. It's familiar and everything else. And I'll tell you this, that comfort zones are an illusion of safety. Most research shows that humans are hardwired to avoid uncertainty because we process uncertainty as a threat. But staying safe for that long term increases our stress, it increases our depression, and most of all, it increases our regret. And if you follow me on social media for any length of time, you know most of my posts say #no regrets. And that's because regrets potentially have some of the greatest leverage in our lives now, using them proactively to change what it is that we're doing or not doing. For example, if I told you to visualize sitting in a doctor's office and having them tell you have pancreatic cancer and it was undeterminable, undetectable, but now it's stage 4 and you got 6 months to live. If you had diabetes and you were about to get your limb amputated, so on and so forth. If you could put yourself in the future and realize that the actions and the things that you're doing or not doing may result in you winding up in a situation that you definitely don't want, but maybe perhaps are clueless or not really considering the impact of your prolonged decisions, or you don't think that you're going to do it forever. But put yourself in that doctor's office and realize, hey man, if I stay overweight, there's a potential that I will get diabetes and I can risk amputation. I could risk losing my eyesight to retinitis pigmentosa. Diabetics have that. There's a lot of different things, neuropathy, nerve pain. And if you were sitting in that office, would you be like, all right, I did it to myself, bring it on, I'll figure it out? Or would you be like, oh shit, I really wish I wouldn't have ate all that sugar. I really wish I would have taken better care of myself. I really wish I would have ate fruits and vegetables. I really wish I would have exercised more. I really wish I wouldn't have let that event, oftentimes it's an event or events in our life that cause us to go into those downward spirals. Because if we can't get safety and security, what do? We go to the things that do, our gratifications, our addictions, right? So we go into drugs, alcohol, sex, Netflix, gambling, scrolling, social media, whatever it might be, anything that can take your attention away from what is most important that you should be focusing on. But you sit there and you put yourself in that state of leverage, and you realize that procrastinating and staying in your comfort zone all the while may have been safe and predictable and certain. Again, I want to emphasize the stress and the depression and the regret that lands in your life, because you don't get do-overs. You don't get do-overs. And I've seen so many people not take care of themselves, or stay in an unhealthy relationship, or stay in an unhealthy job, or do shit because it made them great money, but they were completely unhappy. I've seen those people get heart attacks and have strokes and get depression and get overweight and get addictions and get divorced and lose their life and go into rehab. I've seen all sorts of stuff like that. And that's not what I want for you. By the point of you listening to my voice right now on this particular day, in this moment, whatever it might be, it's a sign. It's a sign for you to start living and truly experiencing life, right? So many times we're either existing in life or we're living life. And you know, the people that are out there living life, those are the people that are out there taking the risk, and they're pushing themselves outside of their comfort zone. And they're realizing that's the zest of being alive, right? We're here to see and feel and touch and experience and have all these different emotions and take in the world around us for a particular reason. But yet we wait. I was just talking to a coaching client earlier, and we were talking about her biggest fear. And she said, my biggest fear is that I'm not going to get to travel the world in the way that I want to. And I said, okay, so that's scarcity. I said, what do we need to work on in terms of scarcity? What is the reason behind you think that's not going to happen? And what are 5 steps that you can take starting in the next couple of months that will ensure that happens? Or that at least you're on the progress, you're on the road to be able to say, hey, listen, I'm doing this. I'm going to get to be able to check off my bucket list of going to Italy. And I share that's something that me and my wife had to do. It took us over 4 years to save for that. But guess what? The 4 years seems like it's going to take forever. But sure enough, 2022 came along. Boom. And there we were, 2022 or 2021. Time is flying by. But anyways, so tonight's invitation for you is to consider where it is that you can get excited about, start taking some risks. Because like I said in some previous episodes recently, I just talked to one last week, was my thoughts on life, a very vulnerable conversation about life and what it is that you should really start to do to be prepared as best as possible for artificial intelligence, for climate change, for all the different things that are going on politically and geographically and currency wise. I can't even begin to tell you because I don't understand it, but there's a lot of stuff that's coming. And so the sooner I teach you and the sooner we all become more resilient and we decide for ourselves that no matter what happens, whether it's in my control or not in my control, whatever happens, I'm resourceful enough, I'm disciplined enough, I am structured enough that I can take decisive action and change what it is that's going on in my life and not be a victim. Right? There's so many people that are going to find themselves being a victim to situations, and they're going to, I didn't know, I should have known better. So you can be that person. You can be that person for your friends, for your family. You can be that inspired individual that says, hey, what's going on with Teresa? Teresa's starting to lose weight. Teresa just got rid of an old boyfriend that she's had for so long that everybody else knew that was never going to marry her and that was cheating on her, right? You could be that Teresa. You could be that Greg. You could be that Chris, that you suddenly start taking a little bit more care in intentionality in your life, and you start keeping your promises to yourself, right? And that stuff starts to change your life. And I will tell you, there's been plenty of times in my life where I've been complacent or I've been in my comfort zone. And the thought of taking that next step or taking the step that I know will break through and cause all the other dominoes to come into action, I've had to make those decisions in my life. And it's scary. It's frightening. You don't know what's going to happen. But guess what? If you look back on your life, when have been other situations where you figured it out, where you've done it? Like for me, if you don't know me, I was a homeless kid at 13 years old, seventh grade homeless dropout, had to live in a car with 18 cats and 4 dogs. I was homeless for 4 years. I tried to kill myself twice. Unfortunately, I sucked at it, dug through dumpsters, had people try to kill me, drugs, alcohol. I mean, everything you can imagine in a story of a 13-year-old going on the wrong side of the tracks, it's there. But ultimately, after having a gun put to my head, after trying to kill myself twice, unfortunately sucking at it, I had to get to a point where I was in my comfort zone. Like, this is what it is. This is all it's ever going to be. And that's all I ever told myself. Maybe I'm going to have to work 5 jobs to maybe, just enjoy the weekends. Maybe that's what it's about. Maybe every 7 years I'll be able to maybe take a little vacation. I don't know. But when I started opening my mind to the possibilities and realized that if I continue to do what I'm doing, I'm going to wind up dead, I'm going to wind up in jail, or I'm going to wind up dead, jail, or I'm going to wind up successful. And so at 17 years old, with nobody to really support me, I decided to leave the situation that I was in, and it was frightening. And I had to leave my mother in that situation, and I had to go get a couple of jobs and live with 5 other guys in an apartment, in a 2-bedroom apartment. But we did it, and we kept doing it. We ate ketchup sandwiches. I collected cans. I did 3 jobs. I did whatever I had to do, and it was not forever. Because guess what? I started gaining more knowledge, and I started gaining more ways of doing things. I became better at time management, and I started studying how to become more productive. And I started reading books about personal development and all these different things in my life, and started to apply those into my life. And guess what? I got better, and I got smarter, and I got more disciplined. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't perfect, because guess what? After that, I wound up getting married at 18 years old, and I wound up getting divorced at 23. And when I got married, my wife, Tammy, took care of me, and it was amazing, and it was comfortable, and somebody loved me, and I had all the things that I didn't have before, and it was safe, and it was certain, and it was a teamwork, and we had money, and but I wasn't happy, and she wasn't happy. So at 23 years old, we got separated for 9 months. We did that. We tried that. But at 23 years old, we both had to say, you know what? It's not working. I love and appreciate you. You're my friend and everything, but I just don't think this is going to work. And so I wound up having to move out at 23 into a studio apartment. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. I didn't know how I was going to eat. I had to do my own grocery shop. I had to do everything for myself in this independent life, plus keep my job. Plus I started going back to school to get my GED and go to college. And I was doing all these things. And it was frightening. As somebody who did not do good in school, who never considered himself smart, who never considered myself intelligent or articulate, or somebody that anybody wanted to be around, I had to rebuild my self-confidence from the ground up. I had to study what successful people were doing. I had to want it. And that's what I'm saying for you. If there are things in your life that you say that you want, but you haven't done it, just ask yourself and be honest. Do I really want it that bad? Do you really want health that bad? Or are you okay with potentially living only until your 50s? And there's no guarantee anybody else is going to live longer than the other one. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about life. I could be dead. I could have a heart attack or a stroke in 10 minutes. I could get hit by a car. There's all sorts of things. I don't take it for granted. Even last night when I got back home from a concert in Los Angeles that I went to, I just sat in my truck and I said, God, I am so grateful that I had a beautiful night. There was some challenges, but I got there safe. I enjoyed the concert. I did something I wanted to do. I was by myself, all these different things. So I just took a moment to be grateful for my truck to drive to Los Angeles, grateful for the parking situation worked out, faithful for the people that helped me, faithful I didn't get mugged walking downtown Los Angeles 5 blocks to my parking garage because I didn't realize how far. Grateful I'm sitting in the park in the driveway of my home with my family inside. It just took me a few minutes, and normally we don't take those times. We're rushing. What's the next thing that's going to validate? What's the next thing that's going to fulfill me? What's the next thing that's going to distract me from everything that's going on? And so going through that divorce, I spent a year by myself. I didn't have any friends. I just took that year to understand myself. What do I want? Who am I? Because I had changed so much being married because I was a people pleaser and I wanted everybody else to be happy. And I thought, if I make everybody else happy, it's safe for me. And wow, I'm getting love and I'm getting friendships and I'm getting all these opportunities and I'm scared to death. I'm going to fuck it up. I'm scared to death. I'm going to say something stupid. I'm scared to death. I'm going to do something stupid. I'm afraid I don't deserve this. Is really when you get down to the root of it. Do I deserve happiness? Do I deserve abundance? And oftentimes, I can promise you, if you listening to this show and you've listened for any great length of time, you're on that process. You're on that journey. Like my coaching clients, they continue to change. And so what it is that they're working on changes because they're like, that's no longer important to me because that's who I was before. That was the scarcity mindset. That was the scared Mariana. That was the scared Nancy. That was the scared Jeff. That was whoever it might be. But as you start to change, you start to realize, man, if that's possible, right? I went to the gym a month in a row and God, I'm feeling better. I lost 2 pounds. My clothes are fitting better. I'm making better food choices. I'm thinking clearer. I'm doing better. All these different things all build on themselves. But if you continue again with that complacency and that boredom and that acceptance and that toleration of mediocrity, guess what? You're going to continue to have the stress and the overwhelm and the lack of rewards. And you're going to have to look at those other things to bring you that joy. And guess what? Eventually you're going to get to the point where that doesn't bring you joy either. And I will tell you guys this, I drank for a lot of my life and I love drinking. I was at the concert last night and I actually said to myself in my head, oh my God, I miss the times when I would go to concerts all being, kind of buzzed and shit. I'm looking at other people having a gay old time, doesn't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. And they're singing and dancing, all sorts of stuff. And I was doing that, but I said, I miss those days when I used to drink, but do I miss how I feel in those days? I didn't wake up today with a hangover. I felt great. And I didn't have to worry about driving with any alcohol in my breath or any alcohol in my system. And I could have had a beer or two, no big deal. But I was so proud of those situations, right? And because I know that I'm worth the investment and the time and the consideration and the care. And I know that I'm worth it to not continue having relationships and people in my life that drag me down, because we know misery loves company, right? So look at the 5 people you're around the most right now. Take out a pen and paper and write positive, negative. And are they positive people? Do you enjoy engaging with them? Or is it a duty? Is it an obligation? I feel like I have to be this person's friend because nobody wants to be their friend. Or nobody will tell Julie that she fucking complains all the time and never says anything positive and just drains your energy. I had a situation like that. And guess what? I asked the person, I said, what would it feel like if you didn't tolerate that anymore? If maybe you either had constructive two-way conversations with Julie, or if you just said, you know what, Julie, I have to be really honest with you. And this is going to suck and it's going to break my heart, but nobody else is being honest with you. And I feel you should know this. And one of two things are going to happen, Julie. You're going to either appreciate me and love me for this, or you're going to hate me and you're going to blame me. The choice is entirely yours. And it may not be right now, but I'm going to give you that space. But I got to tell you, every time I talk to you, and there's other people that say this too, and this is not a gang up session. Every time I talk to you, you're always negative. You spend an entire hour complaining about shit that you haven't changed, you haven't worked on, that you feel like you're stuck with, which you're not. And it drains everybody else, because if we give you ideas and suggestions, you don't take them, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we would like to see is this. And if Julie sits there and tells you to fuck off and you're a horrible friend, and you're a piece of shit, and brings up shit she did for you 3 years ago, then those are the people that you need in your life. Those people will keep you comfortable and uncertain and safe and predictable. And you guys can complain about how it's everybody else's problem. It's your parents' problem. It's your husband's problem. It's your childhood's problem. It's your teacher's problem. It's society's problem. It's the government's problem. And I see people doing that. Oh, those people on that, they need to change. No, it's us. It's us. We need to change. If there's people you disagree with, are you doing something actively to better understand where their opinions and their beliefs are coming from? Are you doing something to go out there and get involved and have actual conversations with people, talk to them face to face? Or are you just completely pushing them away, saying, I can't stand those people, da, 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 da. It's ridiculous. Like last night at the concert, the lead singer said, hey, we're all from different walks of life and sexual orientations and religious orientations and everything else. But look, we're all in a room singing and dancing together. Can we do more of that in the world? Can you do more of that in the world? Right. And I think about this also, after I got the divorce, I wound up in a job that they were taking advantage of me and they made me feel like shit, or I allowed them to make me feel like shit. And then I finally got to a point, even though it was safe and comfortable and I made good money and there was a promise of a future there, I realized that it was not in alignment with my values and what I value, what I will accept, what behavior people treat me with, whether they're an employer or a friend or a spouse or a vendor or whatever it might be. And so I said, you know what, you're not going to talk to me like that. And I got out of my comfort zone and I picked up a newspaper. Back in those days, that's what you did. And I looked for another job. And I said to myself, I will take the first job that I get offered just to be able to relieve the situation and my stress, because I am not going to tolerate at 24 years old. I'm not going to do that, And when I told them, I gave them my resignation, they were all alarmed and begged me to stay. And I thought about it. I didn't want to hurt them, but I made a commitment to not stay in my comfort zone, to not allow people to take advantage of me, to not accept mediocrity. And there's so much more that I could share with you, right? So let's go back, let's peel back the onion a little bit and think about the comfort zones and where they originated. Most of the time in your life and in my life as well, it was a negative experience. It was a failure. It was rejection. It was an embarrassment. It was something where we said to ourselves, essentially, I need to stay in my lane. This is what I'm good at. This is what people tell us as kids. You think about the things we were told by teachers and by parents and by sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles and friends and whoever might have been in front of us, our music teacher, right? You think about that stuff. Oh, you're a terrible singer. You shouldn't sing. Well, fuck, I don't want to embarrass myself. The guy told me he's an expert. I trust I trust that person's opinion. That person must be, that opinion must be true. Because either things could be true or false, or there could be partialities of truth. But you think about it as a kid, you think about those negative experiences. Oh, you're terrible at English. Oh, you'll never be a professional speaker. Oh, you and you put that in your mind, and it's called an agreement. And whether you're cognitive of it or not, you make that agreement. Oh, and then you start to hide. You start to dim your light. Okay, now I'm not going to do these things. I can think about plenty of experiences in my life where I put myself out there, especially as a kid, only to be rejected. Right. And that's what I said before. Where does comfort zones originate? Where do they originate? Sometimes from rejection. Right. I'm not going to ask the girl. I've asked these girls out and I constantly get rejected. As long as I don't ask people out, then I don't have to feel that rejection. I don't have to feel like a piece of shit. I don't have to feel like I'm anything less than. So I just won't do that anymore. If somebody wants to date me, it'll happen naturally, or they'll talk to me or something like that. And then you cut yourself off. And then now you have a mannerism about yourself that says you're not approachable. So then people don't approach you and you wonder why you're miserable. And then you're more miserable and it just starts to feed on itself. So look at this conversation right now is, what cycles do I need to break? What cycle of insanity am I continuing to do, hoping, wishing, and praying that some other outcome will happen? The only outcomes that really happen are if you're in a situation of what I call luck or prosperity, which I think most of the time all that stuff's really written. Last night, case in point, I met some people at the concert. It was a totally haphazard experience. The people were standing in front of me. I told the lady, she dropped something. We got in this long conversation about life and what I do in the podcast, and they're musicians, and I could tell they were famous, but I didn't know who they were. And I sat there and thought, normally I would be like, okay, who are you? And how do you know the singer? And, and not figure out a way, but, just kind of use that situation maybe to my advantage. Oh man, I really want to, are you going to go backstage or da-da-da? And I just sat there and had a great conversation with him. I thought, if nothing else, I'm hearing probably 60-70% of the words this person's saying. I can't remember her name, beautiful girl. But I just thought in my mind, I'm like, if this is supposed to go anywhere, I told her about the podcast. If she's supposed to listen to the podcast, and maybe she's listening right now. We met at the Butch Walker Marvelous 3 show last night in Los Angeles. You had 3 of your girlfriends there. And all of a sudden she listens to this, and then all of a sudden she reaches out and says, hey, Chris, I met you the other night, and da-da-da, can you talk to my friend? And who knows what can happen? The excitement should be there for the possibilities in your life, right? What possibilities are you considering in your life right now? Positive possibilities. And yes, there is an overabundance of things to consider that are possibly negative. I'm right there in that boat. I have to work on myself daily and remind myself that this is life, right? We get this moment. We get this moment right now. We get this day right now. I got last night. There's no guarantee of what we get tomorrow. There's a guarantee of what if we put out there and we create the homes and we create the mini communities within ourselves, that we can have that and we can build that. And the thing I really want for you, and I've talked about this before, but it's so important, how you start your day and how you end your day. I wake up and I say what I'm grateful for, and then I set the intention for the day. And it's not always perfect, but when I set the intention to be present and playful with my son, when I set the intention to use my words and my actions to make this world a better place, when I set the intention to push myself outside of my comfort zone in one little way today, that by which doing so, when I go to sleep tonight, I'll feel proud. And feeling a sense of pride, feeling a sense of accomplishment. When you go to sleep at night, when you think about, hey, I started this day out, and I set the intention to do one thing that I've been procrastinating on. And I did that one little thing. And I thought it was going to be a big thing. And then it only took me 10 minutes. It only took me 20 minutes. And then you did it. And you're like, wow, I wish I would have done that sooner. And then you ask yourself the next question. What can I do next? What can I do next? How can I build momentum? What can I continue to do? What promises can I continue to keep? When you think about that, because when we get into that comfort zone, we think, I'm not going to try that again. I'm not going to do that again. That's awkward. That's uncomfortable. That made me feel ridiculous. We go into our feelings and our emotions and we stay stuck. So we can't do that. So my action item for you with this and thinking about this at this point is just write down, what's your earliest memory of not taking a risk out of fear? And then what was the belief formed in that moment? So when you think about it, what's your earliest memory of not taking a risk out of fear? Like you're going to try out for a baseball team, you're going to do something, you're going to play a musical instrument, whatever it might be. What What talked you out of that? Maybe you're going to jump your bicycle off a jump and you decided not to. I don't want to get hurt. I don't think I'm good. Okay, what can I do? How would I be able to get better? Is it important enough for me to really do? Right. And so you think about in terms of comfort zones and whatnot, you think about social conditioning with our family and society. And a lot of times our parents and our caretakers they'll often focus on a reward stability over risk, right? It's got to be predictable. You go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, you meet a person, you get married, you buy a house, you have a family, you have a career, you go on vacation, you retire, you enjoy life, you die. That's the kind of the bill of goods that we've been sold. And so the reason why our parents and culture and society will tell us to stay safe is because they don't want to deal with us if we go crazy, right? When they sit there and be careful when you go outside. Yeah, they want you to be careful personally, but what they're really saying is, I don't want to have to deal with the fact that something bad happens to you, that it's going to impact me. So when you think about the digging deep into the roots of something, like, really, okay. So a lot of times we will inherit other people's fears instead of creating our own courage. So our parents may be afraid of heights. They may be afraid of traveling. They may be afraid of whatever else, my stuff. And then those beliefs and those ideologies kind of seep into our life. And maybe you're not aware of it, but you're like, man, when was the last time I took a risk? Am I taking a risk right now? Am I really, truly experiencing life? It's crazy as it sounds. Like, I don't go out much anymore. And I used to be out all the time. I used to be out at jobs and consulting and also all traveling, all sorts of stuff. I don't go out a whole hell of a lot anymore. So even just yesterday, getting in my truck and driving to Los Angeles, which was, an hour and a half, finding the parking place, figuring it out, how to get to just all this different stuff. And normally I go with my wife or I go with a friend. It was uncomfortable. And there was a part of me was like, do I really want to do this anymore? Like, this is kind of a pain in the ass, and I'd rather have somebody here helping me and But at the end of the night, I was so happy that I went and did it. I was so happy I got to experience those moments in that room with that band and those other people. Right. So sometimes we think, it's going to be a big issue. It's going to be a hassle. But yeah, on the other side of it, you're going to feel a sense of accomplishment. Right. Getting out of your comfort zone creates accomplishments, and accomplishments create confidence. And when you have that confidence, like, what else can I do? Where else can I push myself? What business can I start? I tell people all the time, like, right now we are in a gig economy. You need to have side hustles. You and your family need to have a side hustle. My wife can bake bread. If we ever needed to, okay, we start a bread baking business. Maybe it's a specialty novelty bread baking business by special order, and it's only for Riverside. And I don't know, maybe it becomes a whole thing. Maybe we partner with somebody else who does sauces and whatever else, and we create a whole thing. I don't know. But what is it for you? Because definitely in this day and age, I can't stress this enough. And I talked about this on previous podcasts recently because you guys asked me to go there. Like I did podcast number 333 in September. It was normal is gone, because people were saying, I just want everything to go back to normal. I feel like nothing's been the same since COVID. Listen here, bitches. And I say this affectionately, nothing's going to be the same, right? There's political uncertainty. There's currency changes. There's so much stuff going on that I can't even begin to fathom. And I could certainly be paralyzed by fear, like, why bother, all that different negative language. But again, nothing's really changed, because when I was a kid, Russia was pointing nuclear weapons at us, and we were told to hide under flimsy wooden desks to save our lives, or jump in a bathtub. We've had the Gulf War. We've had the bird flu, the COVID. We've had all sorts of things. There's been no shortage of tumultuous times in our history. And we have always gone through it, and we get through it. Whether it was the Great Depression, whether it was the Ice Age, and if we don't get through it and the world blows up, guess what? We'll all be in heaven, and we'll look back on the experience and be like, hey, I'm an angel now. I don't know. But I'm just saying, I look at it as a thing to be excited about. Like, like they were talking about the rapture last week, if it came, so be it. As long as I'm with my family, boom, let's go. Like, we're all going to die someday. If we get to die together, and it's just a part of the natural evolution of Earth and humanity, then someday maybe they write that in the history books. Man, in 2025, the world just poof. So be it. It is what it is. Did I live? Did I cherish those moments? Did I tell people I love them? Did I do the stuff that I wanted to do? Was I having bucket list moments, right? Going to Italy was a bucket list moment. Buying my truck this year was a bucket list. All these different things are bucket list moments. Doing this podcast now for 5.5 years, almost 6 years. 6 years? No, 6.5 years. Yeah, 2019. continue, right? When you think about this. So here's an action item for you to do also. I'm creating little action items, and then at the end of the broadcast, I will give you more action items and more questions to ask yourself. But here it is. List 3 messages you grew up hearing about safety or success, and ask yourself, do you believe those same things serve you today? Do those same things serve you? Like what your parents were probably baby boomers or Gen Xers. They were raised in a completely different time and a different set of circumstances and a different set of values and a different set of political and societal pressures that maybe we don't have anymore, or we still have. I don't know. But think about those. What are those 3 messages that you grew up hearing? And how can you start to change your perception and just change the meaning around them, right? Another thing about comfort zones is we think they're traps. I mean, they actually become traps because we tell ourselves it's good enough, right? It's good enough. It's good. How are you doing? I'm good. Wow, what would it take to be excellent? Oh, I don't know if I could be excellent. Like, are you having a good day or a great day? I tell people that I ask people that all the time. Are you having a good day or a great day? I'm having a great day. Okay, why is it great? Well, this, that, never. What would even make it better? Well, if this has happened, okay. So what would be the opportunity to have more great days instead of just good days, or just, oh, it's good enough. Yeah, it's okay. Right. Is life comfortable? I talk about this also, comfortably miserable. That's what I was in my corporate job. I made 6 figures. I'd been there for 26 years, all sorts of things. I was in leadership and had my master's degree in leadership, comfortable, safe, certain, But I kept asking myself, when am I going to go do my coaching and my speaking full time? It was safe. I was comfortably miserable. I was miserable in my situation, but because of my past and my believing, like I shouldn't look the gift horse in the mouth. I make so much money. I can't believe how much money I make. I can't believe what office I have. I can't believe I get 6 weeks of vacation a year. I get every other Friday off. I kept convincing myself of all the things and all the reasons why I should be happy. But when I was honest with myself, I'm not happy. And sure, possessions and money, sure, it's great. But you buy stuff and then you're like, do I even pay attention to it? I have so much stuff that I thought, and honestly, I have so much stuff that I have a full-size piano in front of me. It's a keyboard. Do I ever play it? Do I really acknowledge the stuff that I have? Or did I think buying that and being able to produce a drum sound on there to record music? I never did that. So maybe that's something that I need to do, right? Let's think about that. Because the truth is, comfort today equals regret tomorrow. And if you're not growing, you're dying. Mentally, physically, and spiritually. I went to the gym this morning. I didn't have much of a workout, but I went there for 45 minutes and I did supersets. And although it wasn't my greatest workout, I still walked out of there being proud, because I know that chances are, I said I was going to go later, but chances are, based on my performance, I would have gotten busy and not done it. So I just said, we're going right now and we're going to do what we can do and we're going to knock it out. So that's what you got to do. Okay, let's keep going. The dangers of staying in a comfort zone. Complacency, you normalize average effort. Mental health impact, the lack of challenge, the boredom, the anxiety can even result in depression, because they're not being who we said we were going to be. When you were a kid, when somebody said, what do you want to be when you grow up? You said, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a race car driver. I want to be a rock star. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a physicist. When you think about that journey, then you lost the excitement for it. Why? Because somebody said you have to be realistic. You have to get your head out of the clouds. Come on. You got to be practical. Yeah. You have to want the things that I want for you. Otherwise, I'm not happy. You know, when you base your happiness on what your kids do or what other people do or don't do, it's pretty crazy, right? Right. So let's put the happiness back in our hands. Let's put the happiness back in our hands. All right. The regret factor. Here's something interesting for you. 76% of older adults say their number one regret is not taking more risks. The 5 Regrets of the Dying, the book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. Mentioned here countless of times. Mentioned it last week. Gave all you guys a challenge to go buy the book and tell me about it. Not one person has told me about it. One person reached out and says, I've been thinking about getting that book, or I've heard about that book, but I have heard nothing about anybody accepting my challenge and getting that book and reading it. So I know there's a bunch of you out there that are listening to this and get inspired and come back every single week. But are you doing the stuff? Oh my God, I don't want to read about a hospice nurse talking to people when they died. That's scary. I don't want to face that. Well, when you face it, guess what? You kind of go, shit, that could be me. That could be me. right? And I don't want to get to that place in my life where I regret the chances that I didn't take or the person that I could have became. I got to that point in my life too, where prescriptively and on paper, I was super successful. If you put me in a room of people and you told me what that room of people was about, I would do studying, or I would present myself in such a way that I would be successful in that room of people, whether it was doctors, lawyers, whatever it might be. I would adapt myself to become that person. But I wasn't happy. I was sitting there agreeing with things that I didn't agree with. I was saying the things that I thought I was supposed to say in order to build that connection and build that relationship, to ultimately have it become a monetary or an egotistical reward. Again, wasn't happy. All the outward validation, all the other things, but internally I had to be honest with myself. And I had to decide, am I willing to sacrifice, compromise, risk all the wins and all this other stuff for me to truly feel congruent with myself and to be aligned with myself and be proud of the person that I am, and not running away or hiding from who I am, and realizing that if I can't be me and attract the right people and opportunities in my life, then perhaps I have some other work to do. And so that's when I let go of the suit and tie speaking. That's when I let go of not swearing or cursing or being sarcastic or telling people what I think in a polite and loving, affectionate way. All sorts of stuff changed. My happiness, my integrity, my congruence, all sorts of things changed, but I also wasn't people pleasing anymore. And people were like, what's wrong with Chris? What is he doing? And some people didn't like it. And some people I grew apart from, and some people I attracted into my life because they're like, I really like this part of you, Chris. I thought you were a people pleaser. I thought you were a brown noser. I thought you were a shit talker. I thought But then they started seeing the real me, and those connections, while I lost some that weren't meant to be, or that were purely based on surface level shit, but I gained so many people who are like, hey man, I really respect you. I didn't know that about you. I never talked about being homeless. I never talked about digging through dumpsters ever, until I started sharing that, and people were like, oh my God, and you've accomplished all these things. And then I realized it was an opportunity for me to inspire people, that they could no longer have the assumption that I have it all figured out, and realize and understand that we're all in this together. We've all had screwed up stuff, just different levels of it. Some of us had a beautiful, perfect life as a childhood, and they still fucked it up. And you have to go through those experiences as well. We're all having these experiences. And when we have these moments where you can hear my voice and you can hear these things, that's where the true awakening happens, right? So you think about that. So think about this. Here's a reflection that you can do. Imagine you're 80 and you're writing a letter to your younger self. What regrets would you have if you never took that leap today? So we're getting close on time. I want to respect your time. Here's another thing. Reframing our fear. Instead of fear equaling danger, how about fear equals a direction where to go? Maybe fear, when we dig deeper, like the fear of not being accepted, the fear of not being worthy, the fear. Okay, so what does that mean? Right? And maybe that's a cause for us to explore something deeper within ourselves. Because here's the truth. And it's actually, I found this online as well. The neuroscience shows that excitement and fear are basically the same situation. It's just our perspective about it. So you could choose to be afraid of the roller coaster, or you can choose to be excited about it. You could choose to be afraid of the surgery, or you could choose to be excited about the outcomes. You can be afraid of having the tough conversation, but be excited about standing your ground and having some integrity with yourself to not roll over and let everybody else take advantage of you. Because when I ask people, like, when did it become acceptable to be a doormat for everybody else to wipe their shoes on? When did it become acceptable to be the carpet that people spit on? It's not acceptable, Chris. All right. So what are some actions that you need to do? What are some behaviors? What are some attitudes that you need to own, that you need to adopt, some beliefs that you could say today that will help you have the strength and the courage in those moments to no longer accept that as being what you're going to allow in your life? God, Chris, that sounds scary. God, Chris, that sounds uncomfortable. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? Then just keep an open mind and stay true to yourself. And if somebody blows up at you or retaliates or anything else, just sit there and realize that people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And maybe that person you thought was going to be a lifetime is only a season. Maybe it's not even a season. Maybe when you look back on it 5 years now, you're going to be, there's a reason why that person was there. There's a reason why I dated that person. There's a reason why I went through that turmoil. There's a reason why that person cheated on me. There's a reason why I cheated on that person. Right? So think about this. And one of the biggest things you can do is you can have an accountability partner. And just for you guys out there that may not know this, I have a group coaching program that I've been doing now for almost 2 years. It started off literally as probably like a 6-week thing, to be honest with you, maybe a 6-month thing. And it's turned into 2 years, had people in and out of it. It's completely affordable. So if you're interested and you're listening to my voice and you want that leverage, you want that accountability, you want what you're getting right now, but in a coaching form, you can do one-on-one coaching with me, or you can do the group coaching with me. It's a completely affordable. It's like, if you don't want to take this step, then you got to ask yourself, what's my fear? What's my fear in investing myself? What's my fear in uncovering some of the truths that maybe I've hidden? What's the fear if I no longer am a people pleaser? The fear is I may leave my husband. The fear is I may change completely and not be recognizable to my friends. No, I'm not afraid. I'm excited. Right? And if you can't even afford that or do any of that, just get an accountability partner in your life. Get somebody in your life who will tell you the truth. And then you meet up every couple of weeks. You say, hey, I'm going to do these 3 things. And that person's going to do 3 things. And then you hold them accountable. And if they didn't do it, you ask them why. And you ask them, like, what are you going to do next time to do something different so that you do crush it? Instead of saying, oh, yeah, you were busy. That's okay. You get it next time. You get it, girl, next time. You get it. Right? It's all about doing something different. So here's where I want to give you some ideas to think about, right? I could go on. I took more notes in what to share with you. This is a never-ending topic. So here is where I want to give you some questions to write down and to really think about this. And I've broken them up into different categories. So this category I titled Awareness of Comfort Zone. So here's a question. Where in my life am I coasting instead of growing? Here's another one. What activities, habits, or relationships feel comfortable but are keeping me small? Next question. If I'm really honest, what am I avoiding by staying comfortable? And I just helped somebody out this not too long ago. We got to the root of it, and they were afraid of growing and not outliving, but I guess outliving, not in length, but outliving life from their partner. Because their partner isn't interested in personal growth and all that other stuff. So they kind of stay where they're at. And I said, that's a real concern, because in my relationships where I've continued to excel and continued to improve myself, the other person got animosity, they got rejection, they felt all this, you're becoming too smart, you're becoming, okay, you need to be with a person that says, go do that. And I'm not going to stop you. And that's not for me. And that's okay. We can bring our particular experiences to the relationship and we both can grow. But I know in my experience, so when I continue to grow, it caused the other person a lot of strife. So you think about that, what am I avoiding by staying comfortable? And the next category is fear and root causes. So ask yourself this question. What fear shows up first when I think about stepping out of my comfort zone? Failure, rejection, embarrassment, loss of control, financial risk. And then the next question, whose voice am I really hearing when I talk to myself out of taking risks? Mine or someone from my past? So for example, are you hearing your dad? Oh, you shouldn't do that. That's risky. You should stay safe. Be grateful for what you have and and all that other stuff. Like, who are you to want more? Who are you to be selfish? That's not being selfish. It's self-love, right? Because when I think you can assure you this, when somebody is operating at a level 3 or 4 with their level of acceptance and self-love, when they change that to a level 8 or a 9, the relationships, the people they serve, their job, everything improves. Health, reduction in stress. It never goes away. You just get different kind of stress. You get stress that you get inspired by, right? So when you think about this, the questions you can ask yourself are this. If I do nothing differently for the next 12 months, how will my life look? And this is probably more important than ever because artificial intelligence is coming. I was just in Los Angeles yesterday and the amount of driverless cars was shocking. So if you drive for a living, ladies and gentlemen, if you're doing Uber, if you're doing DoorDash, you're doing any of that stuff, those jobs are not going to exist. They may exist in small supply because not everybody's going to be able to afford it and stuff like that. But hey, it's coming. If you provide a service that can be replicated by a computer, artificial intelligence, even my job as a coach, people can have apps now that answer all their questions and that check in with them every day. But the personalized experience of having this experience, I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of that going anywhere. And I know that people are going to be looking for that. So when I think about the next 12 months, my recommendation is, how can I build deeper connection? How can I become more confident in myself? How can I become a better listener? Like really listen when people talk. Man, this is what I heard you say. And I'd love to ask you a question about that. Can I ask a follow-up question about that and have that person talk more and tell more and understand more? And maybe if that person isn't asking about you, hey, can I share something about myself so we can have a two-way conversation in this? Here's another question. What opportunities am I currently saying no to by saying yes to comfort? What are you saying no to by saying yes to comfort? You're saying no to possibly finding the mate of your dreams. You're saying no to having maybe a more freeing lifestyle. I mean, there's so many different things to do. And then the last question here is, what is my comfort zone secretly costing me in terms of energy, joy, money, or relationships? Right? What is it costing you? Because I could tell you guys, even though I've only been talking for an hour, the messages and the strategies and the heart that I'm sending to you right now to take this seriously is remarkable. We are at a point in all of our lives where we can start to be the example for other people to follow. We can start building communities within our friendships to support one another. Instead of just going out and having a good time, you can sit there and say, hey man, I'd like to grow with you. You know, maybe we could do this. Hey, let's take up pickleball. Let's challenge ourselves. Let's do one new activity in the next 3 months together with your partner. Let's try pickleball. Let's try pickleball. Let's try this. Let's try that. Let's take a painting class. Let's take a dancing class. Let's take a cooking class. Let's take up golf. Let's make it a point to go on one hike a month and challenge ourselves and be excited about it. Right? Have stuff on your calendar, have stuff that you're looking forward to do that's going to make you stronger. It's going to make you a better person. It's going to make you a better lover, a better friend, a better spouse, a better parent, a better whatever it might be. Because what you're doing right now and what we continue to do every single day is we continue to build legacy, and we continue to build the fact that when we are gone, and we will all be gone, my goal now more than ever in my life is that my son says, man, my dad would have said this. My dad would have done that. I wish my dad was here to talk to me about that. Of course, making a difference in the world and being known as Christopher Rausch, the No Excuses Coach, and changing the world and the way the world thinks is powerful. But the focus and the legacy really right now, the intentionality for the next, so many years is just to be that dad, that present and playful dad, that dad that's not thinking about the world and being frustrated and disappointed and all those different things about it. And like, man, if I was an 8-year-old kid, how would I play with my kid right now? What is he really most interested in? I don't know. He doesn't care about cleaning up his room and being organized and all that stuff. And chances are that's never going to change. So I can continue beating a dead horse into the bush, whatever you want to say, and have him go like, man, I don't want to be around my dad, because if I'm around him, then he just brings up the fact that my room's always a mess. And see, I'd rather not do that. And then all of a sudden you just distance yourself, and then you don't realize it. And then it takes a long time to make that up. In your relationships, are you being the best friend that you could possibly be? Are you reaching out to them? Are you holding them accountable? Are you saying what it is that you need that you're not getting? I've done that with my friends. Hey man, I feel like I always have to call you and see how you're doing. I'd love once just for you to check on me and see how I'm doing. Oh yeah, I'm really bad at that. Okay, so if you're really bad at that, what do you suppose you could do to get good at it? Because it's impacting me. So even if you just put in your fucking calendar as a reoccurring thing to check in on Chris once a month and just send Chris a text message, that's all you got to do. But if you don't care enough to try to do anything, it's just the way I am. I always forget, or I'm terrible at calling people back, or I'm terrible at returning text messages. Then what would it be like if you weren't terrible? Because it makes me feel like I'm not important. So what is it that you got to do? You know what, Chris? I'm going to get better at that. Or I'm going to use voice recognition, or I'm going to, whatever it might be. Or you as the person just need to decide that it's not worth it anymore and continue on. So please continue to support the show, share the show out. And if you're not a part of the YouTube community, go to youtube.com, the Christopher Rausch, Rausch. If you can't find that, just go to Google or whatever your favorite search engine is and type in, just do this for fun. Type in hashtag, the little £, No Excuses Coach, all one word. You'll find my YouTube. You'll find me on interviews. You'll find everything that is about me, because I am the expert in being a no excuses coach. But go to youtube.com, the Christopher Rausch. I have recently posted some walk and talk videos, which were very popular for me back in the day. I stopped doing them, so I've been doing a little bit more, posting those. Those are 10 to 15 minute videos. Again, my experience to you, from my heart to yours. We got short videos in there, less than 1 minute. We've got these podcasts in there, 335 episodes on YouTube. You got a bunch of other stuff that I've done before. You got all sorts of stuff. I had somebody that wanted to be on the podcast that went and researched me, and she said, so your wife is a karaoke singer. And I'm like, oh, you went and watched my my life playlist where I have a bunch of stuff in my life from years and years ago. And my wife is singing karaoke there. So it's there if you want to see it. So if you're interested in the group coaching program, or you're interested in coaching with me, feel free to reach out to me. If you've never had a coaching session, I will gift you a coaching session. We will have this one-on-one, and I promise you will walk away with strategies. And if nothing else, if you can't afford it or don't want to coach with me, that's totally fine too. The offer is there. We're going into 2026, so we're going to be starting our 2026 goal planning. So you want to be on board with that. And I can tell you that the people who are in the goal planning this year, by May, because they had become such different people, switched their goals. And that is a beautiful thing. So I will be back here next week, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because I swear, on the video cast. Would love for you to join us in any one of those fucking 60 countries, I think it was, that I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast. Thank you so much. Send me an email, Christopher@ChristopherRausch.com, RAUSCH, info@noexcusescoach.com, wherever you want to do it. Send me a message. Let me know where you heard this from. Let me know what I continue can do to support you as far as guests and topics and all sorts of things of that nature. Let's continue to rise up together and make this world a fucking amazingly beautiful, gorgeous place for everybody. Okay? Can we do that? Love yourself, love others, love me, and I will see you next week on the